Hey guys, Merry Christmas. This is Christmas Eve. I've ran out here in the garage just to sort of get a head start on this other car that I'm working on. One of our mutual friends, we call him Head, pretty good old boy. It's one of them guys you just can't help but like, but I've got to know him through Tim Dixon. He's one of Tim's friends, and I don't work on a lot of people's stuff, but I've took a car of his on. It needs some exhaust gaskets, which is sort of a pain, but I'll get to that in a minute. Here's Clarine, my 1959 Kingswood wagon. Yesterday I got the blinkers and my front parking lights working. So I'm pretty proud of that. When I say my front parking lights, it's the front blinkers as well. That light there, they did not work when I got it. Someone else had started fooling with this thing at some point. I don't know who, what, when, or where, but somebody had been peddling trying to get the blinkers working. Maybe they did get them working. I don't know. I had to fix a wiring harness to the driver's side front light. It was broke, real just dry rotted and brittle, but I fixed that, and the blinkers still weren't working, so we traced wires. We owned stuff out, me and my dad. We got Tim Dixon's 78 model, 78 or 79 Chevrolet truck done yesterday. So we swapped it out with this Crown Vic over here. I'm fixing to show it to you, but while we were waiting on them to do the swap out, we started picking at this thing, and we did get the blinkers working. We started fooling with the horns, and the horns are bad, so the steering wheel, though, the horn button is actually breaking ground. So all I really need is a relay and the horns themselves, but we'll get to those later. The main issue I had with this car as far as the blinkers was the flasher, you know, in the fuse box for the blinkers. Someone had put a new one in it. I don't know if it had just went bad. Maybe it was bad from the get-go. Who knows? But anyway, we have the blinkers working, parking lights, brake lights. All the lights work on this car, so I'm real proud of that. I'm going to try to fix the horns next. Of course, I got the wipers working. I like stuff to work. I like four things to work, I guess I should say. The next big thing is the gas gauge. It's moving around. The tank on this car, Tim actually built this tank himself, so it is sort of a custom tank. I'm going to take it, I'm going to drop it down, and it's leaking gas when you fill it up. I filled it back up yesterday, and it's leaking out of the sending unit. You know, you could just not fill it up with gas, and that would kind of remedy the issue. But I don't want to deal with that. And like I said, I'm having a issue with either the gauge or the sending unit, so I'm going to drop that tank and address that. I've got to have a gas gauge. I cannot stand not having a gas gauge. So those are kind of the next few things on the agenda for Clarine. Now, here's this Crown Vic. I'm not a Ford guy. Most of y'all know that. I'm just not a fan of a Ford. There was a time when I started fooling with the 4-valve Ford stuff just a little bit, not much, just kind of piddling with it. It's fun. I will say that Ford, you know, made a lot of different things throughout the years. You know, you had several rear ends that were in Explorers, you know, the 8.8s and stuff that people like to use. Of course, this car has an 8.8 in it. There's a lot of different gear selections for that particular rear end. You know, a lot of even the GM guys, you know, they use these 8.8s in a lot of different cars, Camaros, Novas, whatever, trucks, Chevrolet trucks. It's a good rear end. You can't really knock, you know, the rear end. Like I said, there's a 1,000 different gear selections, relatively affordable, and these rear ends are plentiful. They're in Mustangs, Explorers, these Crown Victorias, Grand Marquis, some of the Lincolns I believe had them. So they're everywhere. Just a good, cheap, reliable rear end. And again, these 4.6s, you know, you had 2-valve, 3 valves, 4 valves. You had different the 4-valve heads, you had 4-thread, 9 threads. Of course, the 4 threads were like DA, DBs, and I think the 9 threads were DC, and I don't know, whatever. I'm not real good on all that. I know the cams, you know, like I had an 03 Cobra. We ended up putting cams out of a 98 Cobra in it. Of course, they had 4 cams, you know, overhead cams. Just a lot to them. Again, I'm sorry about kind of getting, I don't know, mumbling on about that. But anyway, we've got to take this manifold off this car. Now, I've done this before on some of these Fords. It's aggravating as hell. Most of the time, the bolts want to break on you. I've got manifold gaskets where it bolts up to the head, and I've got a donut collector, whatever, for where it goes into the pipe. So I've already sprayed these bolts. I've cleaned the rust off of them. That's where a lot of people mess up. They will not get in here with just a little old wire brush and knock that rust off the threads. I wish Ford would have put another nut, tap, whatever, on each one of these exhaust studs. That would have solved a lot of problems. I like to do that on Chevrolet manifolds. You know, if you run one nut up, tighten your manifold collector up, whatever you want to call it, stick you another nut on it. That way you have clean threads down to there. Worst case, you spin that thing off and you break it, you should be able to get the next nut off and have enough to get it put back together. Anyway, all that aside, I've got these kind of cleaned up. I've sprayed them. I will try to come out here at some point tomorrow, spray them again, maybe hit them again with a wire brush. Getting them clean, getting them lubricated, that's the trick. So we'll see how this one comes off. I'm still liable to break every single stud in this head. If I do, I do. You know, I'll get it fixed. But anyway, that's all we have to do to this car is just put gaskets on there. It's got an exhaust leak. You can see he kind of quit driving it because of the exhaust leak. So we're going to get that fixed, and then he's going to tackle some more things. Again, I'm not a Ford guy, but I do like these Crown Victorias. Most of y'all know I used to be a full-time police officer, and now I'm part-time for the city here that I live in, and also the local sheriff's department. So I've drove a whole bunch of these. I work for another police department as well over in Spring City, Tennessee, and I've drove a lot of these Crown Victorias. These are really good, reliable cars. As bad as I hate to say that about a Ford, they are good vehicles. The transmissions are kind of a weak point in them, but these old motors, I mean, you can beat them to death. The intakes are a weak point. These exhaust manifolds, I've seen a lot of issues out of them, of course. You know, they've got a lot of miles on them. They've been drove. You can't really just, you know, beat them to death over little simple issues like that. So, again, these are pretty good cars. I wouldn't care to have one. I'm not actively out here, you know, looking for one, but if one crossed my path for the right price, I wouldn't care to own it. They ride good, they drive good. They're somewhat good on gas. They're not, you know, the best on gas. They're not the most powerful, but they are good cars, and they're comfortable. So, and they just have a cool look. I like them. You know, a whole bunch of these cars have been junked and crushed and parted out. You know, they've just taxis, company vehicles, police cars especially. So anyway, a lot of these things have, you know, kind of, you know, went to junkyards or whatever. So there's still a lot of them out there. Don't get me wrong. They're not rare in any sense of the word. But again, there's a lot fewer of them now than there ever was. Anyway, that's what I'm doing now. I'll update y'all on that. Again, Tim Dixon's got his truck. I hope it's doing good for him. Just wanted to kind of update y'all on Clarine here. And I'll try to get this video uploaded tonight, and I'll try to do something else tomorrow or the next day. Y'all have a good, and again, Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.